All right, another quick movie review. I know I said I'd do one movie at a time. I'll probably do two just because it's like It and then It Chapter 2 kind of go together. So, I mean, right off the bat, I think it was around a 7, 3.5 stars. Kind of falls in line with like what people thought of it. I guess I thought it was point 0.1 better than the average person. But I will make a point too as to why I think this is. I think this is actually a very fair rating, but I just think people kind of, there's going to be like, hold on. I thought it was pretty good. All right, so movie review. I thought it was pretty good. Um, I did see the original. It has been year. It's probably been at least 15 years. I mean, I remember seeing it when I was younger. I was a kid, and it was kind of scary when I was a kid. But it's the whole thing. You don't really watch horror movies for them to be scary. What am I doing? Here we go. Reviews. So it's kind of like this. I'm gonna get into the. This is gonna be part of the procedure. Is I'm gonna look at kind of what other people thought too. So I love it more than the second. Not as That's fair. Not as scary as I remember it, but honestly, the acting from the kids is what sells it for me. The acting was pretty good. Or the series came out recently, the Welcome to Derry, and I can't tell if the kids are like really good actors or like not very good because some of the time I'm feeling like they're not very good. Hell nah, 3.5. I mean that's fair, I guess. I guess he's saying hell nah to the clown. Such a big comedy. Okay, well, too long and unmemorable, but it's passable. I mean, yeah, thought what you thought. Didn't find it scary at all. I see, like I kind of have a problem with reviews like that, where it's like you're going into a horror movie thinking it's genuinely going to scare you. As like an adult, it's just kind of like I don't know. That ain't it, man. Comfort movie that has no comfort. That's fair. 4. I mean, they give it a higher rating than me. I don't know what that means. Let them go. I don't really know what that means. Rewatch because of how good it Welcome to Derry is. It is pretty good. I mean, it's drawn out. It's like most TV shows are kind of drawn out though. They have like one scare in the end or whatever to kind of keep you hooked, or one mystery element. Oh, we're gonna reveal this element. Tune in next time. It does have the TV show formula, which I get kind of annoyed with. Then you got to wait week after week, and you're watching the show over the course of months, and then if there's another season coming out, then you might have to wait a year or whatever. Anyway, back to it. Sorry, I don't want to talk about the show too much. Not a fan of how it concludes. It concludes by they kind of fight the clown and sort of like win the 27-year cycle or whatever temporarily. Spoilers, like all reviews, I should just start putting it in the title. Spoilers. Actually, this one warning: self-harm. Spoilers. Self-harm. Trigger warning. The movie deals with some themes of self-harm, bullying, etc. So tune out if that is triggering to you. Let's see. More funny than scary. I mean, all right. The horror movie is more funny than scary. Like, I'm an adult. That's kind of how that reads to me. Like, I'm an adult. I swear. People really love Stranger Things now. I'm getting sick of the '80s, like whatever that was. See, am I dumb for saying '80s? The '80s aesthetic of Stranger Things, the D&D, like Stranger Things, the synth, whatever, the lights, the whatever, the red and blue lights. It's like an aesthetic at this point. I don't really think this was like fair to say though, like, oh, it really looks Stranger Things. Okay. Whatever. I had to pause the movie 100 times. It was so scary. Okay. It's like a theme, so fine-tuned, crafted, and fun. It feels like theme park rides. Okay, good. See, this, and this is even higher than I rated it. This is what you should go. This is a popcorn flick, folks. This is the thing people don't really get about movies. I don't go into this movie. I don't go into it thinking this is going to be There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis, an amazing character study. It's like a funhouse, funhouse horror, a theme park, a roller coaster ride horror. You feel blanketed. It is a comfort food. It's a popcorn flick. You watch it. You just try to enjoy the ride of the tension building, whatever. The jump scares here and there, they're going to be in there. It's a clown that pops out and shapeshifts and whatever. Anyway, back to the main page of it. Yeah, it was pretty good. Band of geeks, band of, self-described losers kind of find each other in this small town. I don't know, geographically, probably some Midwest type of town. They get bullied by this one kid who is like, the expression institutionalized, like he's clearly really messed up. There's scenes that are so aggravating with these bullying scenes. It's like, carving somebody's stomach with a knife. And it's like, this kid needs to be locked up now. Like, this isn't like normal bullying. This is very over the top. But hey, that makes for good, enraging cinema to you, the viewer, right? And so they're kind of dealing with social issues. They're the losers club. They're, running around town, whatever, with each other. The one kid's, brother goes missing. It doesn't seem quite right, whatever. What? And then, yes, and then there's this evil presence in the town. You see the picture, right? And it's not necessarily a clown. It's more like a shapeshifter kind of thing, but it's like main form it takes, I guess, as a clown. I don't know. I didn't read every whatever novel synopsis, whatever the It universe, Stephen King's It universe. I don't exactly know. It seems almost like a Lovecraftian, like the three light kind of thing from deep outer space, some kind of like demon space. If you ever seen Event Horizon, like it reminds me of that, some kind of deep space horror kind of thing. And then I think the scenes are really good in these movies where it's like it makes it a point that it's kind of puppeting people, or it takes the form or whatever of people in these kids' lives or these people's lives that it's messing with, trying to consume their fear or whatever. It wants to consume their fear, it wants to eat them. I think it does physically want to eat things, but people, but it also wants to consume. It kind of feeds off their fear. I don't know if it's some sort of like pheromone thing. It inhales it. I'm trying to think like mechanistically. It inhales the fear into its lungs that metabolize the fear, and it's good for this demon, deep space type Lovecraftian horror. But there's scenes where it's puppeting things, and then the person's talking, and then they just like they stop talking and they're just smiling, like, and then they continue to talk, and it's like I see that it's like overwhelmed with the smell of fear. It's overwhelmed with its desire to eat, and it temporarily almost like a little computer glitch thing. It like, because this thing is not from Earth, so I feel like, yes, it's very intelligent, like Lovecraftian deep space horror type demon thing, but at the same time it still needs to kind of think of what to say, and as it's puppeting like the human whatever experience in conversation or whatever that is. So I like the scenes like that, or maybe not, or maybe it's just doing that to be creepy. But I like the whole like glitched out conversation things where it kind of pauses and it almost seems like it's computing, like it's like what to say next or to seem normal or whatever to these people. But because it definitely does like silly antics as well, where it creeps on characters from doorways, and the character doesn't even see it, so it's almost like a playful Lovecraftian demon deep space horror thing that it like enjoys the hunt or whatever, like a cat or something, like So anyway, pretty good. They're running around. They all have their demons. If you in their social lives, essentially, if you will, they all have their struggles socially, which I don't know if that's like it makes them good targets, or it starts, they know about it, so then it is like they have some sort of connection with it. They go looking for the kid's brother, so then they got closer to it, so then it kind of focuses on this group, and then eventually they try to take it down. Some decent funny moments, like I don't think there should be too much comedy in horror, but there's some like decent comic relief moments with like the kids saying like funny things or whatever, and there's definitely some disturbing social moments with like you said, the bullying and just the feelings of helplessness, especially as the viewer. You're watching this chunky kid get like knifed in the stomach basically, and it's just like you just want to help him, so it's kind of effective in that. in that regard. Um, they have, again, just like I think it stays pretty true to the original, where they have a pretty brutal rock fight. You just think about like you're throwing big rocks at each other on a lake, or whatever. It's not a lake. I'm sorry, like a stream. You're just thinking that could go wrong. Like that, did kids used to do that? Man, if you hit in the teeth of a temple or something, that could really kill somebody. But yeah, pretty good movie. It was a fun movie. If you go into it not thinking like I'm a genius, I'm gonna watch it. I'm a genius. This is gonna be a great character study. It's gonna have awesome existentialism themes. Like you got to go into it just like it's gonna be like a fun movie. Grab a snack. Like I think it's a fun movie. And then I think it chapter 2. Yeah, so overall pretty solid, pretty solid. Not like my favorite horror, but it was a solid horror movie. This one, I don't even know if let's see. Let's start it off with 3. Let's see the rating. Okay, 2.9. Fair enough, right? All right, so kind of hit the rating scale there. I agree largely with the sentiment. They are adults now. It chapter 2. Kind of like the original It movie. Then the kids are all the band of losers is all grown up. They all come from this small. I'm going to say Midwest. I don't know if it's technically a Midwest town. I know she was trying to go to Portland when she was younger. She wanted to escape her family situation, but they all kind of branch out across the country, and they don't seem like losers at all as adults. They're all from this like nothing small town, and the one is like a movie director or something. The other guy's a famous comedian. I think it was who's this again? Bill. Is that Bill Skarsgård, right? Or Bill Hader? I'm sorry, Bill Hader, right? Yeah, Bill Hader. So yeah, Bill Hader's like a famous comedian, and then this guy's some insane like architect CEO guy, and it's like, I mean, what are the odds that they're all like successes, right? And then it's almost kind of cliche, like weird thing with her dad, in the first movie they had a very weird relationship. He was abusive, obviously, and it definitely kind of verged on, I don't know if it was like strongly implying, but it was definitely implying that it was some sort of sexually abusive relationship. I don't know if, I don't want to talk about that too much, but it's kind of like full-blown sexual abusive relationship, or just because they're both technically sexually abusive relationships. But she ends up, she seems to be in a loving home where the husband's successful, they're in a nice house, but then she's like, oh, I have to go back to this guy stays there in Derry. I have to go back to Derry, so like my friend called and we kind of made this thing. It's really kind of hard to explain, whatever, blah blah blah. She's talking to her husband, and at first he seems really like normal. He's like, you don't have to explain yourself to me, and like, yeah, like whatever you like need to do. But and then he like grabs her arm like the dad used to grab her arm when she was a kid, and it's kind of like, dude, come on, man. Like I get like the tension building and the the suspense tension building of that, but it's like, if this guy is that like whack, like if he's that abusive and whack to her, like her husband, that she kind of ended up marrying her dad in a way, you know what I mean? Then why would he start by being all, But I guess, yeah, in a way that is kind of how abusers are, sort of. But it's weird how quickly that turned in that conversation. Then, of course, she ends up like kicking him in the face and like taking off her ring, and then she goes back to Derry, and they all kind of drop their lives to go back to Derry because they made this pact. And then once they go back to Derry, the memories start coming back, because that's the theme with the movie is like, when you leave Derry and these things happen to you, you forget your experiences in this town of Derry with this evil, this kind of supernatural, whatever, cosmic horror-esque evil. So then it's kind of coming back to them, and this guy's explaining, like, it's back, and they're like, what's back? Where I had a normal life. I was a famous comedian. Like, oh, I was a crazy CEO architect guy. And that was like the fat kid in the first one. Now he's like handsome or whatever. He has like a goatee. This guy was like the main guy, the main like loser, kind of like of the loser crew guy who kind of was the leader of the crew essentially. And yeah, he was the movie director. This guy was the risk analyst. He ends up marrying his mom essentially, like some Freudian shit. Like his wife was kind of chunky, and she was what would you even call that? Like the Munchausen type, like where she was always worried about this guy. Very very similar situation. I don't know. So anyway, they go back, and the thing about this one, I'm not saying that they used this. I'm not going to say that they technically used footage from the first movie, like some overflow footage or like extra footage from the first movie. But I think the reason why this movie was worse is like they kept having the flashbacks to their childhood, and they did kind of add to the story a bit of, but not much. And they would go like, "Oh, we have the secret hideout." We didn't really see the secret hideout in the first one. We have the secret hideout and whatever, and a few more social moments between the kids or whatever. And then they spent like a summer because this guy and who else? This guy and this they got in a fight about it. This guy wanted to not mess with it, and this guy said we have to. My brother, da da da, and he ends up punching him, whatever. And so they kind of are sort of apart for a summer in their childhood, whatever. And not quite. I wouldn't. Yeah, not quite as good as the first one. Still pretty solid. They're trying to overcome their fears. Self harm warning. This guy ends up killing himself and not meeting back up when he gets the letter or the call or the letter or whatever it was. I think it was a call. And the ending, and that's kind of like, I guess, not like a huge gripe. My gripe with the ending of it is like, so before I get to the ending with that, they're scared of these things. This guy's probably the most scared. He was always kind of the scaredy cat of the group, and his mom was always putting these thoughts in his head that there's something always wrong with him. He's sick all the time. I think he was the asthma one, I believe, if I remember correctly, and. They try to actually, kill it for good. And there's some pretty good jump scares. It's kind of more or less the same with the jump scares and the tension building where they all kind of go into their own fun house type thing. They go into they're alone, then they get, haunted. They go into this kind of memory, this, not memory, but like, it pulls the blind over your eyes of your mind. It kind of makes you see things. So, and it happens more when they're like alone. So if they find themselves alone in the movie up until the end point, they get their own personal scare or whatever they have to overcome or they have to find their way out of, essentially by either running away or out the door where they're getting mental whatever that is, delusion scare or whatever it is. Yeah. And so then they go back to the original spot. He knows like a ritual now that the Native Americans used to use, and but he didn't tell them that they all died or whatever when they tried, but they didn't believe hard enough or whatever. So the end was a little bit like it was cool. It was kind of like from what I remember, it was sort of like the first. I remember the original like Stephen King one being like a giant spider. And I mean, I thought that was probably like one of the worst parts of the movie, to be honest. I remember the original. I didn't like it as much when they were adults, and then they went to fight a big spider, and I thought like maybe it was the technology or whatever, but it's gonna take its true form of like a big spider. It's a big spider from space. Like I thought it was just a shapeshifter, like evil entity, whatever. So it was a big spider, and this one it was like a big spider clown with like, and you even saw his fingers over the spider pincers or whatever. I don't know spider anatomy, and it was trying to like get them. It was trying to like claw them in the end. They were trying to kill it. They did a ritual. It popped out of the box. It didn't quite work. It almost seemed like it was working, then it didn't. And I remember this guy locks up at one point to not save his friend, but someone else saves the friend. He's like, "I'm sorry," and he was really mad at him, and he's like, "Sorry, I was just really scared. I just froze or whatever." And that's a point I'm going to touch on later with this guy. So eventually they defeat it, and this guy actually dies. He gets stabbed. So somebody does die in this, and in the end they all get this letter from this guy, and he said, "Hey guys, like I was just too scared to." And I just hated the expression of like he was too scared to come back to Derry and like face this thing, so he did the logical thing of, quote, taking himself off the board, like it's like a game, like game theory, like board game, you know what I mean? Because he knew he would kind of like mess it up, like he'd be too scared to face the foe. And they're like, like that's a shame, like, but like it's supposed to make you like, like you empathize, where it's just like, he was being selfless. He was always like one of the, described as the best one of the group. He was like the adult as a kid, kind of. And I don't know, the adult thing to do was to take himself off the board because he'd be too scared. And it's kind of annoying to me, I guess. It is what it is. It's not like the movie completely justified that, but at one point this guy got too scared too and it was okay, and then this guy ended up stabbing the monster and saving the person anyway. It's like, yeah, they're all fallible, you know what I mean? They all have their moments where you're mentally weaker in a situation where you're scared or whatever. So I didn't really like that, like, oh, I was too scared and I took myself off the board. I thought that was kind of not as like touching as it should have been in the end. And it just doesn't like quite hit the same when they're all adults. This guy, like Bill Hader's pretty funny, so he had moments where I thought he was pretty funny, even referencing back to the original. I think there's a point where who's going to take watch and who's going to go into the scary building where like it probably is, and he's like somehow taking the short straw or the long straw, and he said, well, good thing we didn't measure dicks or whatever. He's like, well, what did you say back then? And like it was like the inspirational thing he said, and he's like, good thing we're not measuring dicks or whatever. So it was like kind of funny. He definitely was some comic relief in the movie, but they all had their moments with that as well. This guy had his moments with that as well. Pretty good movie. Wasn't as good as the first. It's definitely worth watching. Like if you watched the It Chapter 1 or whatever, the new like remake It's, definitely see Chapter 2. I mean, what are you not going to watch Chapter 2? They go together. They like mesh together. And this one, like I said, has a lot of like memories from their kid, which I didn't. That's why I think that kind of drew it out. I think that kind of, but they needed some substance in the movie. They needed to put time on the movie. You know what I mean? So I mean, we got a little bit more from when they were kids or whatever. And I also thought the scene was also funny in the beginning of this movie where when they first meet at like it was like a Chinese restaurant or something. I don't know exactly what, or it might have been Japanese or something. I think it was maybe a Japanese like sushi place or something like that. And that was their first collective. I'm gonna say haunting because I can't think of the word. Collective evil demon psychosis experience where it makes them see things or whatever. And so it was causing this black ooze in the middle of the table and little creatures, like bat creature, eyeball creature, whatever, cause havoc in the room that they were in. And in the end, he's like, I forget. I think this guy is like, remember, it's not. He's like, it's not real. And then he starts smashing a chair on the table, the middle of this table in this restaurant. And then the delusion like goes away, and then the waitress comes in. I don't know if it goes away when she comes in exactly, but the delusion goes away, and he's just basically smashing a chair on a table, and there's nothing going on in the room because they're having this like group. I'm saying delusion. That's not really the right word, right? But it's making them see things. So then the waitress comes and she's like, "Is everything all right?" And it's like, I don't. Everything doesn't have to be realistic in movies, but that's not a response people would say in that situation. If a party of people at a restaurant and somebody starts smashing a table with a chair, the waitress would come in and be like, "Is everything all right?" I don't think the waitress would come in at all. If anything, maybe the manager or like they would call the cops or something, but I don't think she would come in and say, "Is everything all right?" So that was kind of funny. But hey, I give it props for being like, that's kind of an unrealistic, funny, like social thing that would probably never happen in real life. So yeah, it had some stuff like that. The bully comes back in the second one. He's in a psych ward or whatever, and then it kind of like lets him out. I partially don't understand that aspect of it because one of his bully friends, when he's younger, he ends up dying. It gets one of his bully friends, and then he comes back as like this like zombie thing, and he appears in the room of the bully who's now older. He is institutionalized. It's like, okay, well, at least he's institutionalized, right? Because he was pretty like a sociopath. He's like a psychopath basically in the first one. He did a good job. The kid actor did a good job at being a bully. He was very creepy and in ways kind of realistic, even though I found the bullying very over the top. But then again, it's a movie, so, and I'm not saying that this kind of stuff never happens or has never happened, but like I just think of the knife scene and stuff like that. It's just like, wow, this is some very intense bullying. This is like institutionalized type bullying, So the bully who dies and his band of bullies, and the first one comes into his room. There's a red balloon that's kind of like the iconic thing with it, and there's like the zombie thing, and he gives him like a knife. He gives him his knife from childhood, the main bully, right? So with that knife, he somehow gets out. It doesn't really show exactly how he uses this knife to get out. He stabs somebody. He breaks out, and in the car waiting is his bully friend who's like a zombie, and he drives this car away with the actual human institutionalized bully in the car. And what I don't get about that is because the monster makes them see things, and it can take form of something and be a real thing. It can be like a real object. It can turn into like a monster. It can turn into another person. Like it's a shapeshifter, right? But the whole making them see things delusion thing is in their head, and it can cause real harm. But when they snap out of it, or if somebody else comes in the room, or they go, "This isn't real," and then it goes away, right? So it seems like unless it is actually there, the delusion goes away, and that's what I don't really understand about. He wanted to get the bully out of the institution because he's a real threat that is not like a delusion. It's not like projecting something into their minds. But at the same time, I guess maybe you could argue that the bully in the car was it, possibly. It took the form of the bully. So in that regard, maybe it made sense, I guess. But I was going to say, because if everything's just kind of like a puppet delusion that's not real, how is it driving a car and giving him a knife and breaking him out? You know what I mean? So, but that's not really like a huge gripe, I guess. I just thought that was kind of weird. It's like, I mean, if it can command an army of dead zombie bullies, why not just send an army of the dead to kill these people? You know what I mean? Instead of messing with them in their heads and then trying to take form of something and kill them in the form of something else. Why not just send an army of the dead at them? But again, I could have interpreted that wrong. Maybe it was the bully in that scene. I forget if it was doing something at the time in that timeline whilst that was happening or not. I kind of forget. So other than that, yeah, it's a decent movie. Not as good as the first, and it does feel like there's a bit more wasted time in this one, but still largely enjoyable overall and worth the watch, especially if you've seen the It Chapter 1. And yeah, I guess that's the review. That should do it. Solid movies. Probably like 7, maybe 6 for this one. It was okay. It was worth watching. Probably not like a rewatch. Maybe 4 or 5 years from now, I might rewatch the It movies. You know what I mean? They were okay. They were pretty solid. And that's it. All right, that's the review.